National Sea Rescue Institute says floods have damaged roads and houses in some parts of Cape Town. The Institute spokesperson Craig Lambinon says rough sea conditions during spring high tide this morning caused some flood damage to some roads and houses. A camping site at Silverstroomstrand has been evacuated. Craig now joins us on the line from Cape Town. Craig, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us on PM News.
Good afternoon.
Craig, what is the latest concerning the floods in Cape Town?
Yeah, there was some minor, it wasn't really a flood as such, there was some minor damage was caused to some roadways as well as this camping site that some of the campers were evacuated from in the early hours this morning during the spring high tide and with the rough sea conditions on the west coast, as well as the road on Baden Powell Drive on the False Bay coast that was closed for a short while this morning while clean-up operations were taking place. The concern is that high tide is again at 6 o'clock this evening. There's still rough sea conditions being experienced on the west coast, so we are urging people to be extra cautious around the coast and expect this rip currents to be very strong. But also, if you're launching any kind of craft onto water, make sure that you've got your life jacket on because we are experiencing the rough seas. There is the spring tide, and we're expecting these strong rip currents to prevail.
Craig, you mentioned it was just minor floods, but what is the extent of the damage to the roads and houses?
It's not major. It was all really mopped up in the early, by sort of mid-morning by the disaster management teams that responded to assist. There was some of the beaches had been debris as well as flotsam and kelp had been washed onto a lot of the beaches. That was also cleaned up. And then there were some roads that were engulfed by water during the high tide, but not necessarily any major damage caused. But we did experience at our sea rescue station in Buckhoven, one of the doors was washed away, causing some of our life jackets to also be washed away. We've had a number of incidents around the coast over the last 24 hours, including a drowning accident in East London and Durban, both of them caused by rip currents. So we're urging people, beware because of the spring high tide at 6 o'clock this evening. We're expecting a lot of people to still be on the beaches then and to exercise caution.
Craig, just to drive the point home further, please tell us why the NSRI issued a warning to all bathers and holiday makers.
So we're in the middle of the spring tide at the moment. It's the new moon spring tide, meaning a higher than normal high tide, lower than normal low tide, and stronger than normal rip currents. This, coupled with the rough sea conditions we're experiencing on the west coast between Cape Columbine around to the east coast towards Plettenberg Bay, means very rough sea conditions are being experienced with the spring tide, and sea conditions are dangerous. Very strong rip currents will prevail over the next at least 24 hours, but also be cautious at least into the new year because the spring tide will still persist until then.
And Craig, is there more rough weather expected in and around those areas? And what should people look out for?
Well, the concern is that we're going to have a lot of people on the beaches over at least now until the early part of January into 2015. So we're asking people to go to beaches where and when the lifeguards are on duty. All the emergency services are on high alert and ready to assist if needed. Lifeguards are on the beaches. They post their red and their yellow flags where they detect the strongest of currents to be. They ask people to swim away from those. And so long as you're swimming in between those red and yellow flags, that's the safe demarcated swimming area. But they will move those regularly during the day where they detect the strong rip currents to be forming. And they'll ask the bathers to move with them. Please obey the instructions of the lifeguards on the beaches.
Craig, thank you so much for that.